I grew up in the 1950s in Secaucus, New Jersey, which is in the shadow of New York City. It was a mixture of Polish, Irish, Italian, English, and I think there was 3 Jewish families in the whole town. There was no people of color, there were no Asians, there were no Latinos at all. Okay, it's just the way the community was. But there was differences. Most of the people were first and second generation off the boat. So, you know, some of the families didn't speak the language completely. So it was a different type of setting of mixture, of cultural mix, but it wasn't based on color. I got a job in Jersey City at Journal Square in a coffee shop. And the first person of color really I ever had a relationship with was a waitress there. And I was 14 or 15, she was probably 18 or 19, 20 years old maybe. And she was just like a regular person. I'd never talked to a person of color before, but it was no big deal. We just hit it off, we were friendly. I started my high school career in 1967 at Hudson Catholic in Jersey City. The first football game I went to for the school, Little Hudson Catholic versus one of the big city schools. I'm in Jersey City Roosevelt Stadium. Me and my freshman buddies are sitting in the front row of the football game, and we're getting killed by this big public school, right? 50-0. And all of a sudden, my friends start running. And I'm like, where's everybody going? And they said, well, we're going to get stomped. And they pointed up into the stands, and there was a large group of African-American, black, whatever you want to say, guys coming down. And I said, well, you know, this is my seat. I'm not moving. And so I didn't run, and I ended up under the bleachers, getting stomped, beat upon, and everything else. And actually, a famous baseball coach jumped into the stands and saved me before the police actually got there. He took me home. I was battered, bruised, bloody, and everything. But I didn't really feel any hatred towards anybody. I just didn't know, like, why is this all happening? So it was kind of a strange thing for me to go through all this during the late 60s and into the 70s. One of my best friends in the world from work, I had a job in between high school and college, is Walter from Jersey City. He lived in the projects, the Booker T projects. And well, I thought we were really close friends. He invited me to come down to visit with him. I came down to the Booker T projects. Before I got in, I got mugged outside the place. 3 or 4 guys jumped me, knife up against my throat, took whatever I had. I was like a hippie by then, so it was like $5. But it was a pretty scary experience, and I could have just left after I got knifed in the parking lot. But I said, no, I'm going to go in to see my friend Walter. I mean, a couple of, people aren't going to stop that. He invited me to his place. So I went in, and Walter had some friends over, and I was the only white guy there. He didn't even recognize me. He didn't even notice that I was there. It was really awkward. And so I started like sensing stuff like going both ways. Like he was feeling the pressure, but he couldn't deal with it, in terms of being in a group of his peers. The whole black-white race thing was, I never got it. I was always like, okay, it's me and you. Like, okay, if you got character, I'm with you. If you don't have character, I'm not with you. I didn't care what color you are. God has just given me grace that I'm just past all that. But I know on both sides, I know there's white guilt, there's white hate, there's black hate, there's distrust. I just was never one of those people. And by the grace of God, maybe I hope I never become one of those people. I don't know that in our generation we're going to break this racial divide. But I think Christ Church, historically, we're going to look back and say Christ Church was a catalyst in that era of bringing people together, not just from around the country, not just because of race, but from around the world. My name is Russell Jones, and this is the skin I live in.